Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, folks. It is late at night, and I did not think through how I would introduce us today. But Habs win. They get 2 points today. In a road trip, I don't have high hopes for. But I'm here with my guest, Millie Rivers. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Not quite as late for me, so I'm happy as a clam. Like I said, not expecting much in terms of standings points on this road trip. So you take the wins where you can, and thankfully this one's also, actually a win and not just sort of a moral victory. We have
Yeah,
a win on the column,
yeah.
two in a row, two in a row for Dobie. So I'm pretty happy, all things considered.
Yeah, I actually like this game a lot. Or, okay, let me rephrase that. I did not like everything I saw of this game, but what I did like was I feel like some of the things, by which I mean goalies, that we've been struggling with, I thought was a lot better. And I'll take that win because I think that's a pretty big win. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk about specifically with goalies. I know we want to give Engstrom a little shout out. I know we want to talk a little bit just about the lines. We are back. We are once again back in the torture labyrinth that we were in, where nothing is set in the second line. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, we want to just go through the game a little bit. Now, let's talk about. Oh, first, I want to say hello, everybody in the chat. I'm seeing lots of our usuals. Also, some really fun stuff in the chat. I'm seeing Vaguely Stats, who, by the way, I want to give a great shout out, a big shout out to because he's been giving me a lot of access to lots of stats, which as per the name. So I really appreciate that. I've been able to be a lot more efficient. So thank you so much. But hello. Uh, this game. How are we feeling going in to this game? I was excited. I am a fool and a clown, and I was just excited because I was like, oh, the Habs are winning again because I just believed in them. So, how are you
Look, if
feeling?
if you're a fool and a clown, then the two of us together makes a circus, because I was also a fool and a clown. I was feeling cautiously optimistic. I was like, yes, Utah good, but also if there's one place on this road trip where they're going to eke out any sort of points, it's going to be in this game, just compared to the other ones. And we're coming off a win. We're playing. Talk about goalie management. We're playing the hot goalie. So I was feeling optimistic. I'd say, like, I wasn't, I didn't think it'd guarantee a win or anything like that, but I did think that I had a pretty okay feeling coming in. I'd say it can't
Yeah.
be worse than the last game I was here for. So that's sort of my thoughts.
Oh, that was a rough one. I remember the title of that video literally had Habs get dunked on, and I don't remember the rest of it, but I do remember that. Um, so this game, I think I agree with you in that, listen, we have Vegas that we're playing next, and then we have Colorado, the Colorado Avalanche, who are hands down, statistically and both to the eye, the best team in the league. Usually a fun fact for me. This coming week it won't be. I don't think so. Um, but as I said on Blue Sky, I that game I imagine the Habs are gonna put the or sorry, the Avs are gonna put the Habs in a blender and just slurp them right up. And that's a threat. So this game, let's to focus on this game, to focus on the here and now of today. The start, I was pretty okay with to start the first. It felt kind of lackluster, but that isn't bad. That means they're not giving up the first goal, right? Like I was okay with that first period. Um, I basically just I'm trying to I noticed that they had their power play, then they have their 5-on-5, and I was like, or sorry, the 5-on-3, and I was like, oh, okay, so what Utah's gonna do is take a bunch of penalties, and the Habs are just gonna shit themselves on the power play, and that'll be how it goes. But they got the power play goal by Bolduc. I saw that they were doing some new things with the power play. Did you also see them doing new things with the power play, or was I just wishful thinking it?
I mean, I think it looked better. I think it looked different. Maybe I'm just attributing that to the fact that they actually scored. The fun thing about having a not very good power play is that when they do score, it's more of a pleasant surprise than anything else.
Hmm.
Um, to me, it did look a touch different, but I also think that it could just be because, hey, we scored for once. Or maybe it's like the vision that MSL had by putting Bolduc on power play one and changing up the power play is like finally starting to click, and they're finally making the adjustments that they need to accommodate this new power play lineup, maybe. Um, but yeah, it did look a touch different to me. I think just the way they were setting things up was a little different than their usual, but yeah, I mean, I just don't think they were passing the puck back and forth ad nauseum.
I think that's it, is like the lack of just looking for the perfect play. I thought they were shooting a lot. I thought that um so Slav was back on power play one, which was interesting. Um it was just I can't put my finger on what, but I think they were doing new things. Um I saw that there was more in front of the goalie. They were doing a little bit more. Maybe I noticed because it wasn't just Cole Caulfield. And I noticed Cole carrying the puck up the ice for the entry on the power play instead of being parked in front of the net. So there was some good stuff I saw there, but I was also not expecting much from them. But hey, they got the goal. It was Hudson and Caulfield. Um, Huh. That's interesting. I have Suzuki and Hudson. That's not true. I have my something's messed up there. But yeah,
It
Bolduc
was
with the
Suzuki
goal.
and Hudson.
Yes, yes, cool. Okay. So it's Suzuki and Hudson. Nick Suzuki, by the way, with another 3-point night. He's so back. He is so back. There was a little bit of time where he was not over, but a little bit half out. Maybe half out the door rather than all the way here. But I thought he had a good night. I know we'll talk a little bit more about the lines, and we can talk a little bit maybe about just specifically Nick then as well, the first line. Um, but I noticed them more today, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I think I would be down to talk a little bit about Nick and the first line and also Nick's play. But for the first period, just my overall thoughts were that I liked what I was seeing from them. I think they just looked like they were a lot more alive. I mean, if we're gonna make comparisons to um last stream that I was on, which is against the Kings, where they didn't necessarily have a bad first period, but didn't look great either. I think that here they did have just a lot more speed, like north south wise. They were looking a little bit quicker on the reactions, on like the transition game, and then also, reacting to Utah. So I thought I liked what I saw in the first period. I don't think necessarily that being up 2-0 was reflective of the quality of play. Like, I don't think that they were playing a sort of 2-0 game by the end of the first period, but also, one was a power play goal and one, I think that at least it was a nice thing to have after seeing their improvements and seeing how much better they've looked in the first period compared to no, well, not compared to last game, which was against the Leafs where they looked great, but the games prior to that where they have been looking very like
Yeah.
lackluster and almost not all there.
Yeah, the trend of the last few games, I'd say. Um, I noticed that there was Kapanen specifically was doing some good work near the net in terms of I think we all see Dobie has this very chaotic style of goalieing that hey, it seems to be working for him and seems to be getting back in the right trend of things. But that does mean he costs up a lot of rebounds. And again, I think we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about Dobie. But I was noticing that Kapanen specifically was being very good about clearing the net. I'm not sure if uh, that was a game-wide thing, but I did notice some moments in the first specifically. Um, I noticed that Dobie was looking more confident. Now, he didn't do a lot of work in the first, if I recall correctly. I believe the shots were favoring the Habs. enough that I just didn't think that he was that busy. Um, Actually, no, the first half of the period he wasn't that busy, and then he started getting busier. But I didn't think he had to do a lot of hard work, but what he did looked confident to me, or more confident. It didn't still look confident, but I'm taking any amount of, frankly, I'm taking any good we get out of our goalies, and I felt better about Dobie coming out of the first than I did going into the first, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Two things I want to elaborate on. One, I did see Kapanen sort of doing that same work, clearing the puck out of the net around the front of the net, and around the front of the crease, throughout the game. Like, it was something that I noticed in the third, not even necessarily in the first. So I think the fact that you noticed it in the first and the fact that I noticed it particularly in the third is sort of, that means that it was sort of game wide work that he was doing. As for Dobie, like, he looked a lot more confident. I will say the shot count was just very low in general for both teams there. Like, if you look, just even at Corsi numbers, like, just the Corsi for and Corsi against were very low were pretty low for both teams. So I didn't come out of the first period with too much of an evaluation of, like, my level of his confidence and how he looked, just because I don't think that we saw very many shots or even that many shot attempts from both teams. But I'm glad that you felt reassured. I honestly felt pretty reassured going into the game, just because I felt that going in, he was coming off of a hot win, like a very morale boosting win. So I didn't really have the same sort of feeling of lack of confidence that you might have necessarily had, just because we were coming off of a high. And honestly, we're going to have to put one of our goalies in anyway, no matter what. So, to me, it's not really about confidence, but, like, I'm glad that you felt that way coming out of the first, even though I don't really believe as much in sort of confidence or lack of confidence in the goaltender. As the viewer, I'm just sort of like, well, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I'm just, because I've done a lot of digging into the numbers of the last few games. The Habs haven't been a perfect team, but I think it's been very, very clear that the goaltending has let them down quite a bit. Um,
Oh,
and I don't think we can argue that, right? Like, I don't think that's something that is a question even. A lot of their underlying numbers were good, and the goalies just weren't performing. So for me to see just any amount of performance from the goalies was just good for me. I think just I think I'm so hyper fixated on the goalies right now, as a lot of the fan base has become. Um but yeah, I think coming out of the first, I felt pretty good. Although now looking at the numbers, it does not look very pretty for the Habs. Um I'm currently on Natural Stat Trick. I know you have it open as well.
oh
Uh
yeah.
it- the the 5v5 isn't good, even in the first, which is funny because I thought the first was their best period. Um, but hey, what matters is how I personally feel, and how I personally felt was good. And also, what matters is what was on the scoreboard. And what was on the scoreboard was they were up by 2, and I felt pretty good about that. Um, Kind of, where were you at the very end of the second?
Well, very end of the second or very end of the first? Because very end
Sorry,
of the
very
first,
end of the first. Very end of the
okay,
first.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
that was
because
different. That's different.
two very different moods. End of the first, end of the second. Habs third period, second period. Who boy. But end of the first, I felt pretty good. Like I said, I didn't think the 2-0 was entirely deserved, but I was not gonna complain, and, like, I was feeling pretty happy. I think there's always the looming anxiety, and I hate to be proven right. Of, oh no, we have to defend a lead through the second.
Yeah.
I hate that my anxieties about the Habs defending a lead in the Habs second period are proven right. I don't want to be proven right. Please prove me wrong. But at the time, I was sort of, cautiously optimistic. Yay, good first period. Oh no, we have to hold the lead.
Yeah, I was like, oh, 2 whole periods of a lead that we need to hold. And as we saw what happened in the second. Also, I'm seeing in the chat, thank you so much, everybody, for the reminder. I'm also going to remind everybody, if they haven't liked the stream, please do that. Um, we have a lot of people who show up in our stream who I love to see, but we also don't, a lot of our people who watch our content a lot aren't subscribed. So if you could do that, that would be lovely. We're trying really hard to grow over here. What the Habs are trying to do in the second is apparently set themselves up for a third period comeback. That seems to be their favorite thing to do. Um, I, okay, listen, my notes to start the second aren't too bad because I noticed Hudson was shooting. I really liked that. I noticed that I liked what the first line was doing. I saw a few good saves by Dobie. And then it happened. It with a capital I. Delay of game by Carrier and Utah scores on their power play. By the way, which was apparently ice cold. So you're welcome, Utah. We did that for you, as the Habs tend to. Um,
I think it was
Penalty
running
kill.
prior to that at 13 something percent. So
You're
joys.
welcome. You're welcome, Utah. Thank you so much. that that was a goal. How did you have the dread that I felt right away? I immediately had a bad feeling, and that's called anxiety, but also the Habs do prove me right. So,
Um, I'm twofold in that, or like I'm of two opinions. One, Habs second period anxiety is very much real. I I also don't have as much confidence in the power play as I used to. I think there's some. My other opinion is also that there's like some vestige in the back of my brain that's like, oh, we're fine on the PK. We're not as fine as we used to be. So I don't know what I'm thinking. It's November, get your act together. But
same, the same, absolutely same. I also have the same feeling where I'm like, oh, they're great on the penalty kill, and then I look and I'm like, they're
and then I
not.
watch the penalty kill and I'm like, oh, this is not the same penalty kill I used to watch. And yeah, that's what happens when you lose Joel McDavid. But I mean,
It doesn't
that
help that it was
penalty kill is,
Carrier. It doesn't help that Carrier was also in
yeah,
the box in that moment.
that's what I was gonna say. It was like a lot. I mean, a good number of our penalties were actually like
Taken by
taken by our penalty killers. So that was sort of, I was a little bit less miffed by that first one. The goals that happen at 5-on-5, that's the ones, like those are the ones that I was pretty, miffed by. I think Ethan Habs 9348 in 9348 in the comments says it pretty well. Bad defensive play in the second, TBH. I think that more than anything, more than the bad PK, which frustrating, yes, does need to be worked on, like as a special team, yes, I think is less frustrating to me, or less of a concern to me, than just the overall poor defensive play that led to the 5-on-5 goals. Because to me, that's like a structure issue. That's a team wide issue, as opposed to just necessarily like a special teams issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first goal, I'm annoyed, but it's not the end of the world. Second goal, great. Now
Someone
we've
should have
blown
told
the
the Habs
lead.
that. Someone should have told the Habs that it's not the end of the world, because they clearly seem to believe that it was. Uh
Yeah.
they unraveled so fast after that first goal,
Yeah.
and I think that was the most disappointing thing, was seeing just how quickly they devolved. Jakub Dobes had no space to make a save on the other 2 goals that followed. He was either blocked by literally his own defenseman, or his defenseman not cleaning up the front of his net. It felt so scrambly, and I think that's the part that was just so frustrating, because it seemed to fall apart so quickly, right? And
Yeah.
I was really upset because I thought that Dobie was giving them all the chances in the world, and they weren't holding up their end of the deal, which it's happened the other way around too, I admit, but there's a lot more guys to get mad at when it's when it's this way around, where I'm like, this entire team for some reason. Like you said, just not happy with that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by like the second goal, honestly, and third ones, honestly, to me were a lot more frustrating than just a bad PK. That, like I was saying, it collapsed. To me, there was just a lack of structure. I was like, guys, this is not how you do defensive zone coverage. This is just not how you play in your own zone. I don't really care that you're rattled by the previous goal.
Yeah.
That's not how you play defense. It's just no. So that was why I was frustrated, and I'm very much agree with you that it's all sort of just house of cards collapsed in one go. That was a bit, yeah.
Which is so
What else is
frustrating.
there to say?
Because that's not how
Which
you win as a team in the NHL. Like that's just it seems so simple, but it's a pattern. I don't get it. And that's really frustrating, I think, is what it comes down to for me personally.
I think it's also frustrating for me because we've seen the ways in this which this team has tried to become a bit more disciplined, a bit more mature, not necessarily let things get to their head and lead to these types of collapses, not necessarily let a bad penalty really affect them or like ruin their game, and that they've tried to work on that and tried to work on the moving on aspect of like there's a 60-minute game, let's pick ourselves back up and keep going. I didn't see that from them in the second period. I didn't see that sort of progress they'd put into working towards being a mature team, a team that was able to face setbacks and obstacles. I didn't see that. They blew a lead. They were behind by the end of the second, like 3 unanswered goals. So that was also frustrating that I also like, the play itself to me was indicative of a series of problems or, a sort of mentality that comes with being a very young team that they're sort of trying to grow out of as they become a better team, as they become closer to, belonging in a playoff spot from the get go, as opposed to, having an insane run in February, March. To
Yeah.
me, like that's just not the way a team that knows that they're good should be playing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's what it comes down to is we've been seeing some better responses to bad stuff happening from this team. A lot better, I think, as a pattern considering last season. Um so it was disappointing to see them fall right back into it. Um they had their penalty kill, and once again, I was reminded that Yoel Armia and Jake Evans are no longer doing soulmate stuff on that penalty kill, by which I mean just absolutely ruining the other power plays. They're trying very hard to make Josh Anderson and Jake Evans happen, and I think that line 5-on-5 is perhaps being served well by Florian Jacki on that now. But on that penalty kill, it's just it was hard to watch, and it was a stark reminder that yeah, this penalty kill is actually not good anymore. I think it finally hit me. Like it finally hit me that this penalty kill is a problem now.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, it was a worthwhile trade-off, question mark, question mark, in letting Armia go. But, I feel like it's a consequence that they've known was going to be an issue for when losing Armia. And, I did say that to me, the bad PK is of less importance than the poor defensive play at 5-on-5. But that doesn't mean that I don't want them to address it. I do still think that it's important that it gets addressed and that this gets worked on. To me, I'm just saying in terms of how I felt watching the game, it was maybe a little bit less of a sore point for me. But like it is something that they've had time to anticipate with Armia leaving, with trying to find a solution.
Dvorak
And so I
even
do
was
think,
a big one. Dvorak even used to
yeah,
play on the penalty kill. Savard.
yeah. So we've lost a lot of big PK names, and so I think that it is hard, and it's understandable that there's going to be some room, but I do hope that they continue trying to figure out something that works, because I would like to go back to having a good PK, please.
Yes,
Please.
yes, please. Yes, please. Now, period 3, it starts off, to be honest, I was so frustrated at this point that my notes get more and more sparse. Um, So I don't particularly remember how that started off. But I remember seeing the power play and going, "Oh, okay, brother. All right. Um, all right, sure." But then we get the Slav goal, quote unquote, right? And even though it didn't end up counting, we saw that that gave the guys some momentum. I think it gave them some life. And Nick Suzuki does Nick Suzuki stuff where he's just petty about it, and he's like, "Oh, you called off a goal that like for for a reason that's sure legal, but it doesn't make sense. How about I score another one?" Um, so at that point, I'm just 3-3. I'm in we're so back mode. Whether they are or not, I'm in we're so back mode. Uh, I think that's been nice is seeing the offense be able to build on itself. Um, that was a moment there I felt like they could have just mentally gone, okay, we're checking out of this game because this isn't working for us. And instead they went the other way, of letting it push them. So I was pretty pleased by that. And then obviously the Demidov goal almost right away, right? He takes that big hit in earlier in that shift and then immediately picks himself back up and makes his goal happen. Um, that was a pretty solid little while, I would say, in the game, and by little while, I don't even think it took that long between goals. Uh, what, where are you at that point as you're watching this game?
Third period, like you said, I think that the way they responded to the overturned goal was really good. Like I mentioned before, with sort of my disappointment that they didn't have this really strong mentality or like preventing the collapse. In the second, I think that the third period was sort of indicative of the progress that they have in fact made, with staying strong and not letting these sorts of like bad calls or unfortunate incidents in a game. Chip at their mentality or chip at their willingness to go ahead. They have to be the comeback Canadians in the third. So blow a second, come back in the third. It's sort of the natural order of things. But also I was very pleased to see that had to eat my words with how I felt about the second, about that lack of mentality or that lack of or not feeling that they had the no quit in them, and seeing that they did in fact have it and showing it in the third. I'm a big Ivan Demidov shooter, so I was also very happy with that fourth goal.
Yeah.
But to me, I think that's notable is that they played very little time at 5-on-5. And then at the end, they have like the 2 minutes at the end. It feels very scrambled. Like I didn't feel like the third period was very settled, despite getting back that lead and feeling a bit like more settled than the second. I felt like because there was so much time either on the PK or on the power play or at with the goalie pulled on Utah's end, that there wasn't a lot of time to really play a sort of structured 5-on-5 game, that it was either special teams or sort of reacting to situations, that so I felt good, but I didn't also feel like that was their best hockey of the game. I would argue that it was the first period where I feel like they played the best.
Mhm. Yeah, I think did they play good hockey? No. Do I love them? Yes. I it's just a moment.
There we go.
I was like, okay,
There we go.
this isn't good, but am I thrilled at them coming back? Of course I am, right? Like it was just good to
Yeah.
see, like you said, the mentality, the no quit Habs that we saw a lot of last year, which I wish we hadn't had to, but that's what we saw, right? So just gonna check in on the chat. Again, uh, Ethan House points out Joe Valeno on the PK was rough. Joe Valeno, this is not a guy I should have to talk about as much as I have to talk about him.
And to think I stuck my neck out for him last stream. Like, these Habs sure love to make me eat my words. I feel like every time I speak, I'm contradicting myself.
They're like, what
Like,
if you didn't make any sense? What if you just didn't?
what if you just took me through the epic highs and lows of watching a Montreal Canadiens game and you were just never sure about anything ever? I stuck my neck out for him. I said, guys, come on. He's got a better upside than Sammy Blais. And I like Sammy Blais. And now look at me. He's on the
Look,
PK. He's bad on the PK. Everyone agrees that he's bad. It's not even a question of debate. He's just universally, this does not look good.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm the one person being like, hey guys, he has potential. Sorry, this is a me rant. This is a me rant. But yeah, no, I agree. He did not look great.
Yeah, it was not. Oof, man, oof. Uh, Kingdom North says, "What does he do? Literally, what does he do?" Uh, That
I
there,
wish I could tell you.
I wish I could
I
tell
wish
you.
I could answer.
Yeah, I think it was the 3-3 tying goal or the 2-3. Uh, yeah, I think it's the 2-2 tying goal that the Mammoth scored, that he was there or something like that. Something was happening, but I was like, I'm not thrilled with this, Joseph. I don't want to deal with this. Um, yeah, I think who was it who said something in the Ethan House pointed out W with a couple bails in the third. Yeah, I thought he made some
Yeah.
big saves in the third.
Yeah.
He was. I was a little concerned because I was like, oh, in the second he let in, three. Now, whether that's mostly on him or not, I'm not sure it matters to him, especially if he's dealing
No.
with a crisis of confidence. Like, let's say he was in a mindset that wasn't great, that could have been really bad. Um, so to see him come back and be strong and like have that fire, like there was some times where I was seeing him like get yappy at the other teams or like hack at them a little in that way that goalies are allowed to get away with doing that they shouldn't be, but they are, and it's okay when it's my goalie doing it and it's not okay. um, so yeah, I
Um,
was yes.
yeah. No, sorry. Before I give my opinion on Dovey, I didn't mean to cut you off whatsoever, but Vaguely Stats has a very good point, which is Pap's watch onto period 2.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I would be happy to talk about Dobie and sort of the goalie of it all, maybe in the second period,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
we can finish it up now.
No, let's talk about I was gonna just be really excited about Dobie. So why don't we move on to there? Because I thought he was very important with the empty net too. So how about we'll move on to
Okay.
Dobie, but first, as Vaguely Stats pointed out, thank you so much, is we are going to move on to our second. But before we do that, I am going to send us off to Andrew of Times Past, who will be talking about one of our lovely sponsors, Inchibiju, whose stuff I really, really want. There's some really cool jewelry I've been keeping an eye on. So next time in Montreal, I'll check it out. But if you are in Montreal too, check it out. But they're also available online. And Andrew will tell you more about that in a second.
Famous chateau at 4000 Rue Saint Ambroise lies one of Montreal's coolest secrets, a glamorous Gothic jewelry store owned and run by women. Inchu Bijou isn't just a business. They've built a community that supports bold creativity and expression. When I was first introduced to founder Astrida Pisigomian's shop, I was floored by the detail, vision, and scale of what she's built from her own mind. I don't think anyone would call me goth, but I know an innovator when I see one. Along with building their own business, Inchu Bijou also hosts markets for vendors in their space called Marché Maleficarum, boosting their whole community. If you don't live in Montreal, explore inchubijou.com, where you'll find over 800 designs that range from affordable to bespoke. Check out Inchu Bijou right now, a Game Over partner from the beginning.
Hello, folks. We are back.
Okay, well,
Oh, we are back. Um, so second period of this podcast, and not the second period of the Habs, because I don't want to talk about that. Uh, Dobie, goalies, goalies. Uh, Listen,
goalies.
goalies.
Hmm.
I really, because I had some time between the two games, I took some time to look at some of the fancy stats, and uh I've been doing this thing where I'm like actually manually putting stats into Excel sheets rather than like using the resources at hand where I could just look online. Um I don't know why. I feel like it helps me process them a little bit better when I'm like just literally taking numbers from a site and putting them in my own Excel sheet. Like I don't know why that happens, but it does. Um, but I've been looking at the goalies, and it is pretty clear that there was times where in this last little while they really haven't. We can talk as much as we want about the little things, about them doing this, them doing that wrong, but ultimately, I think if they'd gotten even average goalie performances in net, a lot of those losses would have been wins. Um, so I was really, really hoping to see Dobie come out of it because Monty clearly is struggling in a way that I fear is going to be harder for him to come out of. Um, but I was a little bit more hopeful about Dobie. And not in a way where I don't like Monty. I think Monty's a very good goalie and he makes me feel safer in net when he's at his best. Dobie, even at his best, does not make me feel very safe just because he uses his entire body to make a save in a way that's a little scary. But kind of, I guess let's talk a little bit. We'll talk about, I know we'll talk specifically about this game, but this is funny actually. We talk a lot, to pull back the curtain a little. Millie and I are actually friends. Like we do like each other. We do talk. So we talk a lot about a lot of surprise. So we talk a lot about different different things, but I don't think we've ever talked goalies, you and I. So how how are we feeling in terms of where we're at for goalies? Not counting, or we can count get this game, but it's just in general.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this Dobie's second consecutive start? Like, this is his first time starting back to back this season, right?
It's a great question.
I'll check as far as I know. So correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, this is his second season, first time starting 2 games in a row. And so I was really interested to see how that would play out for him. I think there has been critique with the goalie situation.
Actually, no.
On starting. It's not? Okay.
No, he's done it once early or late in October, and then he did it again late in October.
So I'm a silly goose. Never mind. I take that back. Like I said,
sorry, I just realized something. I'm so sorry. I just realized something. The last 4 games in a row have been Dobie starts. Now I know Monty, I think, came in one of these in Washington, I believe it was. But they were all 4 Dobes starts.
Okay, you know what then? I take that back. What was I saying? I was on something. Forgive me. Yeah. I know I'm supposed to be the more awake one of the two of us, considering I live in PST. Clearly that did not work out. Okay, so I completely disregard that point. I think it's my opinion then, I guess, is about sort of, it's really funny, like you said, that I don't feel at their best. Like, I don't feel like Monty at his best and Dobie at his best do not give me the same feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I do feel like when Monty is on it, I trust in his poise a bit more, and that just comes down to style and it comes down to the visual, because Dobie, like you said, has a very athletic, very sort of full body movement. And so even when he's playing very well, it doesn't necessarily look as structured or as calm. So you look at some of these things, like these big bailout saves that he's making, and they don't necessarily look as clean as Samuel Montembeault at his best would look. However, I think that I felt pretty good with him in net today, despite, the chaotic goalie style, despite the perhaps ups and downs of like the past few weeks and the questions about goaltending. Towards the end of the game, especially towards the end where like they were on the PK, they were on the power play, it was the 6-on-5, I thought that he was reacting very well to these situations. I thought that he looked as composed as Dobie gets, which is to say he does not look like a normal goalie, but I could tell that he was playing with confidence and that his sort of movements and his full body lunging was not a sign of erraticness, but rather just him playing his style and playing it well, which is funny that I've learned to make the distinction between, hey, let's lunge across the entire crease in desperation versus, hey, let's lunge across the entire crease because I'm Dobie and I'm a feral cat. So I felt like it was more of the latter in the third period. I felt like that was what I was getting. So I honestly felt pretty good, especially about his goaltending in the third. Like some people in our comments have said, he made some big saves. It'll be interesting. I think this is like now we're going to start to see what it's like to ride the momentum of having multiple wins in a row and what that looks like for the goaltending situation. With this road trip coming up, I don't necessarily know if it's wise to play Monty. At the same time, like, how many games can you let him sit, especially when part of his performance is mental, and, you know, you need to give him a start at some point so that he can be in a game again and recuperate that mentality and feel like he can be trusted to play in front of the team. But right now, I'm pretty happy, especially, you know, these past 2 games with how Dobie's played. I'm glad to see that he's getting that confidence back, especially after, like, just the way the team has been playing. And I think it's also fair, even if he might not necessarily take it that way, because we know how much of a perfectionist he is, to sort of recognize that even though the goal count did get up to 3 in the second period, it was less on him than some of his previous performances, at least from a viewer perspective. And from an outside perspective, there's taking some solace in that, even if Dobie himself is very, like, hard on himself.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question, right? And it's going to sound, it's, well, I'll ask you that question later. It is a who do we play kind of question, and the way I'm thinking about it is probably not a very good way of thinking about it. So I'll ask you that later. But
Okay, not to preemptively guess your question, but is it we're gonna get blown out by the Avs anyway? So should we might as well start Monty question?
Yes, yes. Yes, I was. Oh my God. Okay, so you know what? Let's talk. So I was thinking about the game, right? Like I was like, okay, so do we want to play Dobes versus the Avs because he gives us a better chance to win, or do we accept that we're not gonna win versus the Avs and put Monty in the net and let Dobie give us the chance to win Vegas, who I think we can actually win against? And this is a terrible way to approach this.
My problem is from a purely like fuck it, why not perspective. I would agree with you, except I can't do that to Samuel Montembeault. Like, we already know that what he's going through is mental. I think that my opinion would be we ride the hot goalie and let Dobie try his best, and then when we get obliterated, put Monty in for Vegas, because I just don't think it's fair to put someone in because you're like, fuck it, we're gonna lose anyway, because we already know that what Monty's struggling with is so much mental that I wouldn't want to make it worse almost deliberately or know that it's going to happen.
It's hard. It's hard because
I just don't think you can do that to the guy. His mental state. Not to make theories or anything, but I don't know how he'd recover from that. That's just not a vote of confidence. That's the opposite of a vote of confidence.
Yeah, it's a terrible thought. I totally agree. Like it's like we're genuinely
I
like
get the appeal.
We're having the discussion of the trolley problem where we're like, do we let the train run over Monty so that I feel terrible about that, you know? It's but I do agree, I think also
Okay. I need to lock in. Habs trolley problem with goalies is kind of an eternal thing, I fear. I think we
Are we
have our
calling
answer
him
to that question,
Kakkonen?
which is
Are we gonna call him Kakkonen, I think is how you pronounce his name?
let's not. Let's
Let's
not.
call him
I have
Fowler
one-sided
rather
beef with
than
him, but also I don't think calling up your AHL goalie
It's
is
not.
the right move
It's
either.
really not. It's really not. I'm not even King of the North accusing me of my Avs fandom bleeding over. I am simply seeing the reality for what it is. And today I watched what the Avs did to the San Jose Sharks, who I will admit are not as good of a team as the Habs. I would say the Habs are further ahead. But I'm not sure if you watch what they did to Edmonton. I'm not sure if you've been watching what they've been doing to their opponents in general. Um, Ultimately, I do think it will end up being Monty starts in Vegas. Um, and if he needs to come out of the net, he'll come out of the net. I don't like saying that. I don't like that that occurred to me. But if he needs to, he will. And then Dobie, I think, is the one you give Colorado. I I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately, I think if you're trying to keep Sammy Montebo's brain in a place where we do need him to actually play. Um, I think Dobie is much more likely to be able to uh, handle the shellacking that might occur. That might occur. Yeah, I do think, as I Miss Saku says, you do have to play Monty soon. Yeah, you can't let him sit forever, right? Like you gotta. King of the North says, grown ass man, stop pucks, it's your job. Yeah, but also we all know goalies need to be handled carefully, mentally, right? Like, it is a very specific position. Um, and it is a very important position. So, hey, it's a question. As I miss Saku says, Monty was solid through some bad years. I don't think he turned into an awful goalie all at once. Yeah, I don't really know goalies at all, but this does not seem. Listen, I know that like maybe last year was like better than average, but I don't remember Montebo being this bad even in the tank years.
He wasn't. I think, like I said, because he isn't that bad and he hasn't been that bad. Like, he's not been this bad ever before. I do think that you need to sort of foster him. Well, not even foster because, like we said, grown ass man. But like handle him in a way such that you don't count out the fact that he has a better place that he can return to, and give him the faith that the faith that he needs and the trust that he will get back there. And I think that's important. That's also why I'm like, you do need to not put Monty in for the purpose of just letting him get obliterated.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to see this goalie obliterated. Um, to me, I think that's it. You need to have two functioning goalies. And Dobie, for as good as he's been, he is a rookie. Like he is eligible for Calder votes, is how rookie he is. So we gotta, yeah, he was good in the tank years. People used to get mad at him for stealing games. We talked a little bit about that. Um, yeah, yeah. Listen, what I'm going to say is that one good goalie game does not a wear so back make, but it is certainly a start to we are perhaps back. Rather than so back, we are perhaps back. And I feel good coming out of this. I feel better. I feel better is what I'm
We
going to
are
say.
on our way to back.
We're
sort of at the middle part of a 3-point turn. Like we're parked into the other person's garage right now, and sometime soon we'll get back on track.
Exactly. And something could go terribly wrong, but we've done this before, so we'll be fine. I lost the metaphor, but
So did I.
it is what it is. Okay. You know what I want to talk a little bit about before we move on to our third, where I would like to talk about the forwards. I don't really have a lot to say about Engstrom, but I do want to talk about him because I thought the little we saw was good. So, first of all, congratulations, Engstrom, to your first NHL game. It's really cool, and he seems to have earned that call up. Were you expecting that call up? Because I was expecting it maybe. No, I wasn't expecting it, is what I'll say. No, I was not expecting it.
I wasn't either. I was not either. Thought it was interesting. I think maybe it was to alleviate some of the, not necessarily overplay, but to help with the fact that Struble and Jacky are sort of cusp fat, like 60, often sometimes like not even in the lineup at all, and they've been both playing for a good amount of time. And I think maybe it was just a decision of like, we gotta give them a chance to sit out a few games, reset, put someone else up there, just get fresh blood in the defense. I don't know why it was done, but at the same time, like it can't hurt necessarily. I don't think it did this game. I think that, I mean, he didn't play very much 5-on-5. He played 9 minutes and 28 seconds 5-on-5, second only to actually no, not second to, but like he was the lowest of the defensemen in terms of 5-on-5 minutes. But I think that he looked pretty good out there for a first NHL game as like a D-man. So, no complaints about the decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's basically, if you look at the Corsi for against, he broke even basically. A little bit further from 50, like a little bit under 50, but he broke even. And I think for a first NHL game, that's what you can ask for. I thought listen, I think very often for defensemen, if I'm not noticing you, you're doing okay. And maybe with the offensive defensemen like Engstrom, like what my understanding of Engstrom is, at some point you'll want more. But to start with, not a bad start, I think.
Yeah. And also, if you're putting an offensive defenseman on like third pairing minutes and not playing them necessarily as much in the offensive zone like you would with Elaine Hudson per se, then it's also harder for them to do their job as the offensive defenseman when they're on like the third pairing. So,
Yeah,
for a first game.
Yeah. I think that's my only concern is, or I guess it's not, yeah, that's my only concern is if they're playing him, I'd like to see him play, you know? But I also understand, I think that this might be more of a reward to Engstrom than anything. He seems to have been doing very well in Laval. Uh, so yeah, I think this is a reward. Um, I was a little shocked to see Arbor Jacky scratch just because I thought that he had a very good game last game. Um, but considering a body of work in the last little while, I think it could have just as easily been uh either or. I would imagine the pairings is what kept Jaden Struble in the lineup because I don't think you're putting Engstrom with Hudson. It, that's is that kind of what you thought when you saw that scratching decision?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I honestly struggled to make sense of it. I think that if you're going to the point of calling up Engstrom from Laval, then you're clearly willing to do some amount of line reshuffling. So or pairing reshuffling. So why not scratch Struble and then, blend it up such that you put like, I don't know, say Jacky with Engstrom or whatever. But I could see it either way. Like I said, like I was surprised to see that Jacky was the one that was scratched. It would make sense that if it was for pairing reasons, but I also think that the pairings could have easily been worked around. So my question is, I don't know what the decision was, is actually my conclusion, but I'm glad it happened for Engstrom's sake. Like you said, if it is a reward, I think that now would be the time, and the sense, like, would make sense to reward him, considering that there is actually a hole in the lineup that he can, in theory, fill. Not fill. Like, rather than, have him play out this very good season, Caden Gooley comes back whenever he comes back, rest in peace, and then be like, hey, you're doing great down there. We would love to see you come play up from the NHL, except we have Caden Gooley back. So I think also now, just opportunistically, it makes a lot of sense if it is, done with the lens of being a reward for Engstrom, to bring him on the road trip, see how he does on the road trip, keep him up for a bit longer if you decide that you like how he plays in this stretch of however many games, and then if not, just send him back down and continue his development.
Yeah, I think so. I want to address something that I'm seeing in the chat, which Last Off the Ice says, Arbor is Marty's scapegoat. It's nauseating. I completely disagree. I like a lot of last season, Jaden Struble was scratched over Arbor. Most of this season, until Caden Gooley got injured, Jaden Struble was scratched. I don't agree with the narrative of that. Like, I just don't understand. Listen, I just want to say that because I just completely disagree with it, and I think it's very unfair to what Marty is trying to do here. At the end of the day, these are 6-7 Ds that I think we as a fan base maybe talk about a little bit. It's an interesting situation, so I understand why we talk about it, but I do find that I wish we could all be a little bit more big picture about this, because Adam Engstrom is an A prospect. He is an A prospect. He is near the top of that pool, I would say. He's with the Hags of the world. Like, in my opinion, he's there. So what you have to do to get him in is what you have to do. Personally, for me, I would say maybe it might have something to do with the fact that I don't particularly think of Utah as a super tough team. Maybe that's part of why Arbor got got scratched this instead of Struble. Maybe, who knows? I don't really think that it's yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely disagree with that, so I just want to say that. But yeah, I thought that, speaking of defensemen, I do want to note this really quickly before we move on to our third period. I don't know if you've been noticing this, but I've been noticing Lane Hudson shooting a lot more this season, and that's been a really good development to see because he does have a pretty good uh shot, I think. And just in general, anybody on this team shooting more is frankly a positive development, in my opinion.
God knows we could use it.
Yeah. If it's not coming from Cole Caulfield, then it's not. I take it from anyone, although I do wish Cole would score a little bit more. Or sorry, shoot a little bit more like he used to. You know what? We're gonna move on to our third. We'll talk a little bit just more about the forwards. I know we touched on the defense. Not a lot to talk about on defense, to be honest. To me, I didn't really notice a lot of standouts, but I think there's a little bit more to dig into on the forward side. So I'm going to move us on to our third period, but before I do that, I am also going to send you guys over to Andrew to talk about one of our lovely sponsors, Le Saint Motel. And as Vaguely Sober says, he'll talk about the ball pit. So see you guys on the other side.
Famous chateau at 4000 Rue Saint Ambroise lies one of Montreal's coolest secrets. While you're browsing into Bijou's goth shop, head next door and discover Montreal's most unique selfie studio. Whether you're looking to take some banger pics of your Halloween costume or cosplay, or you want to make some memories with friends, Le Saint Motel has you covered. Experience their bombastic decors that are always changing, hop in the ball pit, and take advantage of their extensive and flexible on-site lighting. Head to lesaintmotel.com to book your time in the studio, book private time where you and your friends will be the only ones allowed in, or book the space for an event. The dedicated, caring staff will make sure that you have a good time. I do have one warning for you before you book. If you have kids, They won't want to leave. Whether you're at the St. Motel or in Chubiju, tell them Game Over sent you.
We are so back. We were just talking about how much we don't talk about hockey actually in general in our DMs. We're both figure skating fans. Again, to pull back the curtain a little bit, we're both figure skating fans, and I think because there's such a niche overlap, I guess, between hockey fans and figure skating fans, we just all we do is talk about hockey and figure skating. Anyways, so in terms of forwards, lines are not looking good statistically today.
No.
No,
No.
they are really not looking good statistically today. Even the second line that I was very excited about, who seemed to have an on night and then off night, and then by the second line, by the way, I mean the Kapanen, Slavkovsky, and Demidov line. Uh, this first line looked better, I guess, but I didn't like them. Like, I think Bolduc looked the best he has in a while. I still think I've seen that first line look a lot better before, and it's been with Yuri Slavkovsky on there. I also understand what
Yeah.
Marty is trying to do here. What thoughts?
Okay, so not to bring up old streams again, but remember when I said I don't think that Slav being on the second line or off the first line is going to be a more than situational thing. That's not going to happen for more than one game, and then injuries from hell happened, and everything went to shit. So yeah, there he is on the second line. I don't know how I feel about that second line. I thought that it didn't. It honestly looked pretty invisible to me the entire game. I mean, I liked what Kapanen was doing in terms of like clearing pucks out in front of the net, but just in terms of like offensive, if you take a look at lovely, lovely Money Puck, who is the source of my all of my stress and anxiety, like this after Nick Suzuki, the most expected goals was Brendan Gallagher.
That should not happen in
Brendan
2025. I love
Gallagher.
Galley, but that should not be happening in 2025.
I love Galley. I gifted my father a Galley jersey for his birthday. Why is he our second most in terms of expected goals? That's not correct. And also, it's like in terms of order, it's Nick Suzuki, Brendan Gallagher, Zach Bolduc, Cole Caulfield, Josh Anderson, and then Ivan Demidov at 0.14 expected goals. And that's the first time anyone from the second line shows up on the expected goals. So, and this is in all situations, including the power play. So I think it's just something's not quite clicking with the second line, which is unfortunate because they're all young and they all have, good offensive skill. Like, I mean, look at Kapanen's been shooting like crazy in terms of just shooting percentage. Demidov is Demidov, and then Slav is a great power forward. So I just, it is like, I get what Marty is trying to do. I did not like how invisible they felt to me this game.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is they've been trading good games with invisible games, I think. So last game, I thought they were look really good. Game before that, ass and butt. Game before that looked really good. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's a very young line. I tweeted something about this, so I'm just going to take a quick look, but I believe it's like they've got like 200 and here we go. I have the number right in front of me. They have 283 games combined on that line, and Yuri Slavkovsky accounts for 221 of them. So it's a young line. So inconsistency makes sense. I don't know if you have extra time to give that line to figure it out when it's negatively affecting your first line. Uh, I want my party girl line back, and it's unfortunate because my hot take is that I think ultimately that top line is going to be Nick Suzuki, Ivan Demidov, and Yuri Slavkovsky. And I know it's going to make some people. I think Cole and Nick have enough chemistry that that power play is going to cook between the two of them. I think ultimately you'd like a real 2C, uh, Cole on that line, and then fill in the blank there, I guess. But that's a completely future thing. I think for right now, it's tough because this line, the second line, has the Slav, Kapanen, and Demidov lines has shown potential. Do you think Marty has time to give these guys time to figure it out, or do you think it's at a point in this team where they just need the first line clicking?
It's hard. It's hard because I think it feels, because of the condensed schedule, like there is less time. Like they're not getting as much time between games to sort of, work on it in practice and figure it out. It sort of feels like, we're all doing sort of trial and error in the actual games to figure out what's working and what's not working. And it's hard when you say give them time, but time in this situation is what, 2-3 games when we're all pretty injured and every point actually matters in a very tight standing situation. At the same time, I think it would be a disservice to not give them an opportunity to let them click and to keep pushing lines through the blender until they inevitably conclude that the first line needs to be back together. I think also, it's the perpetual debate of, do we have 2 mid lines or one really good line and one really dookie line, with so many players being injured, especially in that sort of second to third line range. Our players that are injured right now are Nui, Line, Doc. They're all second line, third line guys, depending on the night. And so it's not like our fourth liners are getting injured. It's not like our first line guys are getting injured. It's really that sort of middle six.
Sorry
depth.
to interrupt really quickly. At the universe, that is not a challenge. We are not challenging you.
Oh, yeah. No. Please. I did not.
Just for the
Sorry,
record.
I'm just going to put down my mic for a second. Don't take that as a challenge.
Not a challenge.
That is not a sign. Yeah. So, of the people that we have injured currently, and to which I hope the list will not be added, it's mostly second and third line guys, and so that means that it is going to be hard to figure out what that middle six looks like and whether you prioritize having the strong first line versus having a bit more consistency. I don't know the right answer. I think that for now, they do deserve to have a little bit more time to get it clicking. I think that Slav does have the opportunity to drive his own line and also to see, like you mentioned, in the far future, the potential of Slav and Demidov together, even though it's not quite necessarily with Nick Suzuki like you imagine in the future. Seeing how they work together is something worth exploring, even if right now it feels hard and it feels icky to do so because we're losing, as has been brought up so many times, the rabbit with the little pocket watch is, time is ticking. So
exactly.
That was a lot of words to say I don't know, but I think we try it out for a few more games. Next game is going to be a wash. We'll see how it looks then,
Yeah.
If it's the scheduled loss, might as well give it time to develop and see if they can at least look like one of the highlights amongst what will probably likely be a not so highlight worthy night.
That's the game next. The next to next game. The Vegas game, I think. This is so funny. We're talking about that game like it's the Colorado game. I like that we're talking about it like it's
it's doomsday.
They might as well go in there with not only an L on the not even 0 points, but -4 points. We're talking about that game like it's a -4 point night.
They're gonna take away our standings points on that game. Actually,
they're gonna actively take away our standing points. Yeah, Vaguely Stat says that Vegas just lost in shootout to the Sens. I think Vegas is a lot more doable. In terms of, I'm less scared of that team. I think there's more to exploit there a little bit. But ultimately, I think you're right. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, just even if looking if we compare Vegas to the Avalanche in terms of standings points, the Vegas is top of what is the Pacific Division of Mid. Whereas the Avalanche genuinely stand out as a team that is head and shoulders above the rest of the league, in what has been a very middling race for standings points. So I am more scared of significantly more
Oh,
scared of the Avs, and I think Vegas is beatable. Will it be a hard game? Likely yes, but I think it's doable. I think they can win
I
in
think
ways
that's
that I
a
don't feel as optimistic about.
I think that's a game where you have Arbor Jacka in, by the way, I would say, just in terms of
Yeah.
Vegas is that's a team that is willing to muck it up, and I think that that would be a good kind of night to have that. I think the question with that first second line thing is the only way in which you can afford to let the Slav on the second line experiment develop or cook for a bit is if there is a realistic option to go on the wing on the first line. Because Zach Bolduc looked good today. It is the first game he's looked good in a while, right? I'm happy that he looked good. At the end of the day, I don't know if he can do that consistently in any sort of way. And I don't want Josh Anderson back on the first line. I don't know why. Every single time I think of the first line, an empty winger spot, and who they're gonna try to jam in there, I'm like, Josh Anderson. And I'm like, I think Marty's learned that lesson by now. I think he knows very well that doesn't work anymore. But man, am I scared of it. That feels like a constant that's waiting to happen.
Josh Anderson threat. Yeah. So I looked up some metrics, not expected goals against, because who was it? Sorry, in Vaguely Stats was asking how the second line looked defensively, so I did not pull up expected goals against just because that was not the first thing I was able to pull up on my laptop. But if you sort by Corsi percentage, the second line is the worst in terms of forward lines.
Yeah.
And and sort of it goes in terms of worst Corsi, it goes Juraj Slavkovsky, Noah Dobson, Mike Math. Oof.
Rough night for
Ivan
that pairing.
Demidov. Yeah. It's not looking great. And then for Fenwick percentage, let me pull that up for you.
Sure, while you do that, I'm just going to remind the chat.
Okay.
While you do that, I'm just going to remind the chat, we are going to move on to our overtime period very, very soon. In 2 minutes at most. So if you have any questions, be sure to just drop them in the chat. Yes, Fenwick. You were talking about Fenwick.
Fenwick, we have Joe Veleno and Jared Davison at the bottom, and then Juraj Slavkovsky. And then Brendan Gallagher, Noah Dobson, Ivan Demidov, Mike Math. So that one is a little bit different. That's actual shots on net. So that one, I think we see some of the weaknesses of the fourth line. Joe Veleno, hello. You're back again. But yeah, I think it is also a little bit disheartening to see Slav there when I know that he can be better than that. So I think that might also be points against the second line experiment if you want to weigh it up. Mm-hmm. Pro and favor is that it's not showcasing the best that we know Slav has to offer, even though his role there is to sort of be the driver for that line. I feel like it's actually bringing down almost the potential of what he brings to the table because, yeah.
No, I think if this is what this line had looked like consistently for the last 4 games or however long they've been together, this would be a much easier question for me to answer. I think we've seen the highs and lows of the second line, and I really like the highs we've seen. But the low it makes me think the top line that we had was Slav, Caulfield, and Suzuki. One of the best of the league, statistically one of the best. And that feels like a very much when the second line is not looking good, when they're having their off night, it's very hard to remember the good, right? I hope that makes sense. I'm losing steam very fast. So I'm trying to move on to our Q&A, our overtime. But I hope that made sense. I think if the lows of the second line weren't this obvious, I think it'd be a lot easier to give them time. However, my final verdict is maybe let them cook one more game. If they're really not cooking
Yeah.
again, then you can always double shift your Slavkovsky. Get ready to learn 30 minutes a night, buddy.
Get the Nick Suzuki treatment.
Get the Nick Suzuki treatment. So, yeah. So, I'm gonna move us over to our overtime period. I saw a question earlier that I do want to answer. But I'm going to first move us on to our second period, or sorry, our overtime period. Jeez, I'm sleepy. Um, See, it's less about sleepy and more just it's late and I'm not used to talking. Um, so yes, the question that I wanted to address was from King of the North, who asked, "Hey, can you share a look at his big ass go moment of the game?" Great question. Was there a look at his big ass go moment of the game? I don't want to say it was Josh Anderson, but there was a Josh Anderson moment that made me go, "Damn, look at his big ass go." Even though
Yeah. Yeah, I noted that one down in my notes. I said, Josh Anderson, okay? Question mark, question mark. So to me, that is the look at his big ass go moment of the game. Josh Anderson, question mark, question mark.
Yeah, he's still feeling the afterglow of playing the Leafs, which is his favorite thing to do in the world. So, and Banger, I love that for him, frankly. Love that a lot. Just going back in the chat a little bit, all the way to the top is Bernardo Saunier, one of our regulars, who asks, "Do you guys think they may be showcasing Engstrom for a trade?" I personally don't think so. I think this is literally just here you go, kid. You did really good. How about we let you have it? We're not committed to either of our bottom the bottom pairing, or they're not bottom pairing because Struble plays with Hudson, but you know what I mean in terms of like I don't think Marty is overly committed to either of those guys. So maybe that was, to me, it's more just a here you go. Are you thinking along the same lines, or do you think they're actually showcasing him?
I think that there's actually some merit to the showcasing theory in the sense that, yes, Gouli is injured right now, so not in the immediate future, but I think when looking at sort of who we have coming up in the pipeline, and the fact that we've acquired some pretty good offensive defensemen. Like we have Hudson, we have acquired Dobson, we have, in theory, David Reinbacher. Sorry to David Reinbacher, that was, perhaps harsh, but we have supposedly good things coming up in the lineup. So I think that it's possible that they're giving him an opportunity to showcase what he's got to reward him by coming up in the NHL, but also seeing how he fits into the NHL, how he fits into sort of what the team will look like in the future in terms of the D pipeline. And if it doesn't feel like he fits, then maybe optioning him for a trade for a second line center down the line or whatnot, whatever fits the need at the time of the trade. I could see some merit to it. I think that is going to happen anytime soon? No. But do I see that as a possible option? Yeah, I think I do put a bit more stock into it than you do.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, also just really quickly, King of the North says, "Do you want to tell people the origin of the look at his big ass go?" Actually, I don't remember what it is, King of the North. So if you could remind me, I can tell the people. But I don't, I don't remember. But yes, to talk about Engstrom. I mean, I guess that's just kind of how prospects work in general, right? Like, or that's how your prospects work in general. Is you look at um the more NHL games that he plays, the more of a bit of a body of work other teams have to project onto when they're perhaps trading. So I think there is nothing for the Habs to lose with letting Engstrom play right now, especially when it seems like he's not particularly, as of right now, harming the team. So ultimately, my answer to that is could be. It could be.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's a possibility. I'm not shutting it down. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think it's also, we're still getting a first look at what he will look like in this roster. And so for them to make any sort of decision of, we want him on the trading block, they do, of course, first need to put him in the NHL games and in the Habs system to see how he fits in before deciding that he's a good fit or not a good fit.
Also, can I just say really quickly, and let me just, I think we're going to be done after this, so I am going to get this in while I can. Stop trading Caden Gooley just because there is another defenseman up. Adam Engstrom, we had not seen him play one NHL game. And I saw people suggesting that that might be the move to make here. First of all, you have to remember, as far as I know, there's two people that play the kind of defense that Caden Gooley does in our system. It's David Reinbacher and Caden Gooley. If everybody is listen, both of those guys injury prone, whatever, right? Whatever. I'll give you that. If you want to say it, I'll give you that. How are you going to take a look at that situation and go, oh yeah, if I think both of these guys are injury prone, then neither of these guys are reliable. Therefore, what if I got rid of the one guy that we know is capable of doing what he needs to in the NHL? First of all, people need to take into account roles when they're talking about trading. Second of all, you have not seen Adam Engstrom play an NHL game up until a few hours ago. You can't assume what he's going to be. So that's what I'm gonna say. That's what my thoughts on the matter are. That's very important to me that I get that out there.
King of the North, please be nice to Kay and do not speak that rage bait into existence. I fear we are trading Gooley and Jake Evans. No, we are not. Not for the team's sake and not for my poor Kay's sake, okay? She's going through enough. Did you not hear that rant? Did you just not hear that rant? And now we're talking about rage baiting like this? Please.
That I fear may work on me. I know for a fact that you are trying to get to me, King of the North, and I am still feeling a certain amount of feeling. Okay, one more question. Sorry, I am very tired, so I am going to go. But one more by I Miss Saku is, what if you keep Mike Matheson? Do you trade Gooley then? No. And will I elaborate on that? No. That's my answer. No.
Okay. Quickly before we go, I'm just going to float one more thing. I'm seeing talks of Binnington coming to the Habs to fix our Binnington to Edmonton. I fear we're trading for Jordan Binnington and Braden Shen.
That is King of the North again. That is King of the North again.
Master Rage Baiter. There we go. Yeah, Binnington can go to Edmonton. Binnington can do whatever he wants, respectfully. I protecting my peace. The Lion does not concern himself with Jordan Binnington, and that's that.
The Lion only concerns himself with Jordan Binnington in two cases. One, Team Canada, which Scott Wedgwood, please save us. Second, when I need to laugh at the Oilers inevitably giving up way too much for him. And I will be laughing. We will be there. I will laugh. So that's my verdict on it. Millie, would you like to remind everybody maybe where they can find you? Maybe where they can find you? Where they can find you? I
can maybe
so
remind
fast.
them of where they maybe find me. I can maybe be found on my social media. So I'm at Slice Cranberries on Blue Sky. I'm not the most active there, but I will make an effort if people want to see me there. I'm Millie_Rivers_ on Twitter. I'm most active there, sort of doing whatever the heck I want, but kind of there on as a little promotion for my writing with Offside News Co., where I am covering the Vancouver Golden Eyes, so PWHL Vancouver, for the entirety of this season. If you catch me live tweeting their home games, I am up in that media gondola, up in the rafters. So I write about them. I'm here whenever Kay wants me here or whenever our schedules align to talk about the Habs, since I don't do much Habs talk for Offside. And then I have a little Substack where I've written exactly one piece about hockey, but I always plan to write more and maybe some more like personal essay type Habs feelings, thoughts on the Habs that I don't necessarily do in an official capacity with Offside News.
Hell yeah.
That's me.
Hell yeah. As I mentioned last time too, and I'm going to link it again because you're not the boss of me and you can't stop me. One of my favorite articles that Millie has wrote, and honestly in general, because I love the Habs and I love people who love the Habs and understand. There's a wonderful article that I will link, but also I have their social medias linked. So love you, everybody. I am sleepy. I am tired. It hit hard. Go Habs, go! And let's talk about the trolley problem with goalies going forward. How about we think of goalies like that? Okay. Goodbye.
So true. Good night. Sleep well. Wherever you are, please get some sleep.